Light tanks, one of the most annoying tanks in War Thunder, but also some of the fastest and most unpredictable. They may be small, but they can pop out of nowhere and ruin your game. I've already ranked Shermans, heavy tanks and tank destroyers, and now it's time for light tanks. There are so many light tanks in the game and a video covering all of them would take forever, but I don't want to keep you guys waiting, so today I'm only focusing on 1.0 and we'll cover the rest in future videos. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. We're starting off with the US3 and with the first tank on the list is the Mk.E. This abomination is very fast and that's the only thing that's good about it. It has a 50 cal as the main gun. It struggles against most tanks because it can't pen tanks at range and the gun elevation is limited, so it won't work against planes either. F tier. The M2A4. This American light tank is pretty great. It's got a decent cannon with a great penetration and fast reload. It is also very fast and the armor is not that bad for a tank at 1.0. A tier. There is also a premium variant to the M2A4 that is similar, so A tier as well. The Gv.T.Br. This American amphibious vehicle comes with a decent cannon that can fire AP rounds with a great penetration. The shell is like an HE filler, but with the quick reload, it won't be an issue. It has a thin armor, but the crew members are spread apart, making it more survivable. A tier. The Gv.T.A4. Its Gv.T.A1 variant gets the turret of the HMC, so it can fire a heat shell that can penetrate and even overpressure most tanks. It has a slow turret with an open top, but it has a 50 cal to protect it from planes and light tanks that try to flank you. B tier. Moving on to Germany, where APHE is available from the start, we have the Pz.II. This German light tank fires an APHE shell, so it's capable of taking down most tanks in a single shot. It is not very fast, but it has a good reverse speed thanks to its reverse gearbox. B tier. The Pz.38T. This is a faster, more powerful upgrade to the Pz.35T. It has the same armor and sacrifices the reverse speed in exchange for a higher top speed. A tier. The SDKFZ-221. This recon vehicle is very fast and it is one of the few wheeled vehicles in the game that is great at turning. It has all-wheel steering, so it can turn quickly even at low speeds, and you're gonna need that because the gun rotation is very limited. It fires a tiny PCR shell that has good penetration against flat armor. I know PCR is hated, but I actually find it useful sometimes. The issue with this car is that it has a great mobility, but with how bad the gun is, you can't really take advantage of that mobility. On top of that, it has only 2 crew members, so if you get caught, it's game over for you. D tier. Pz.II. This tank shredder is pretty awesome. It has a 20mm cannon that can pen pretty much any tank, and its mobility allows you to flank effectively. And just like the M2A2, the gun elevation is limited, so you can take down planes, but only in certain situations. A tier. There are 2 premium variants to the Pz.II that are the same, so A tier for both. Pz.IIF. This is basically an upgraded version of the Pz.II. It is pretty similar but has a thicker armor and a faster fire rate. A tier. Soviet 3 has some great tanks overall and the light tanks are no exception. The BT-5. The BT-5 is one of my favorite light tanks in the game. It is fast and has a powerful cannon, making it an ideal light tank. It can fire an APHE shell, so even at 3.0 it can still one-shot tanks, especially if you flank with it. S tier. The R.B.T.5. So the R.B.T.5 is basically a BT-5 with 2 giant rockets. The cannon is great and the rockets are actually pretty deadly and can hit your targets, unlike other rockets at low tier in the game. S tier. The BT-7. The BT-7 is basically a faster, slightly tougher version of the BT-5. It also gets a slightly better armor, but with how fast it is, you can easily take out your targets without being seen. S tier. The BA-11. This Soviet armored car looks like it came straight out of a Mad Max movie. It's very fast and has a powerful cannon that is capable of firing an APHE shell with great penetration. And just like most wheeled vehicles, the BA-11 sucks at turning at low speeds, but overall it's very fast. B tier. The Garford. This World War I era armored car is pretty old. It's armed with a decent cannon that fires HE shells capable of overpressuring most tanks. It can also fire a shrapnel round that is pretty amazing. I'm being sarcastic, of course. If I ever make a War Thunder shell tier list, that's an F tier for sure. The Garford is pretty weak and slow, but if you play strategically with it, you can get some good games. C tier. The T-60. This Soviet light tank is pretty similar to the Pz.II, but the cannon is not as strong. It has a fast fire rate and is pretty agile, making it great for flanking. The armor is pretty decent, but with only 2 crew members, it can rarely survive a hit. C tier. The T-26. This Soviet light tank is based on the British Vickers 6-ton tank. It's slow and pretty weak, but its gun is pretty powerful. However, you can take advantage of that firepower because you can't flank or even brawl with it. C tier. The T-26-4. This T-26 variant is a lot like the standard T-26, but the cannon is not as good. You can fire an HE and APHE shells, but both are pretty mediocre. D tier. The T-26 Ikranirvani. This up-armored T-26 variant is surprisingly tough for a light tank. The improved armor means you can brawl with it, and with how strong the cannon is, most tanks will struggle when facing it. A tier. Swedish tanks may be small, but they are fast and very effective. Starting off with the Strv M31. The Swedish light tank is pretty solid. You can fire both APHE and APDS rounds. APDS at 1.0 is pretty insane. It can be effective sometimes, but APDS has terrible post-pain damage, so you're better off with APHE. A tier. The Strv M38. The Strv M31 variant has the same cannon, but the armor is a bit thinner. It is slightly faster with a better acceleration, but the reverse speed is worse. A tier. The Strv M39. This is basically a Strv M38 with a well-armored turret. It's slightly slower, but overall it's pretty similar. A tier. The Vickers Mk.E. This Finnish light tank is pretty mediocre. It has a decent cannon that can take down most tanks at 1.0, but the armor and mobility are not the best. It really struggles, especially if you try to face your enemies head-on. C tier. The T-26 Englantilainen. This Finnish T-26 variant is very similar to the standard Soviet T-26, but with a slightly more powerful engine, giving it a higher top speed and a better acceleration for improved maneuverability. C tier. The Bt-42. This is a modified variant of the Soviet Bt-7. It's equipped with a howitzer that can fire a strong HE shell that no tank can survive. It can also fire a heat shell with great penetration, but the HE is more than enough for 1.0. A tier. British light tanks are very awesome. I had so much fun playing with them. They are pretty solid and reliable. The Tetrarch. This jolly little tank is spine nimble with a beetle-like charm. Its gun fires AP and APHE shells, rather ironic seeing as American tanks on 1.0 don't. And with smoke grenades, is a slippery little devil on the battlefield. A tier. The A13 Mark I. This cruiser tank is pretty solid. It's got a 2-pounder cannon with a really fast reload, so it's great for flanking and brawling. Its armor isn't the strongest, but with 4 crew members and smoke grenades, it can stay in the fight a lot longer. A tier. The A13 Mark II. This is an upgraded A13 Mark I with a bit more armor for extra protection. It's a little heavier than the Mark I, so acceleration is slightly slower, but it keeps most of its mobility. A tier. The Daimler Mark II. This armored scout car is fast and agile, and the cannon is pretty solid. It's perfect for sneaking around and flanking enemies, and with the smoke grenades you can quickly retreat if you get spotted. S tier. The SARC Mark IV. This South African armored car is a great flanker thanks to its speed and mobility. It also comes with a 2-pounder cannon, but it's pretty wobbly and the lack of a stabilizer really holds it back. Moreover, it has smoke grenades, but it's not as survivable as the Daimler Mark II. B tier. Unlike other nations on this list, China has only 3 light tanks in its 1.0 lineup. The M8 Greyhound. The speedy car is very fast and hard to spot sometimes. It comes with a strong cannon and 50 cal that you're gonna need to defend it from other light tanks and casts. A-tier. The Chinese T-26. This Chinese variant of the Soviet T-26 has the same specs as the regular version, but the top speed on this one is much slower. C-tier. Moving on to Japan with the Kami. This Japanese amphibious tank is a big chunky box that honestly looks like an ice cube on tracks. The big hull makes it an easy target, but the gun's pretty good with a quick reload, and the mobility is decent enough to keep it going. B tier. The I-Go-Ko. Is this really a light tank? It's huge, slow, and feels more like a heavy tank. The only light part about it is the thin armor. The cannon is alright though, the APHE is pretty bad, but the heat shell can do some damage since it can pen and even overpressure most tanks. In real life, this tank was designed as a light tank, but it was reclassified as a medium tank due to its weight. D tier. Ha-Go. This is a solid successor to the I-Go-Ko. It's faster and much more agile, making it great for flanking. And you're gonna need that agility because the cannon is not very capable and can struggle if you face tanks head-on. B tier. The Ha-Go Commander. This premium Ha-Go variant is basically the same as the regular one, but with the addition of smoke grenades mounted on the side of the turret. Honestly, that placement doesn't make them all that practical. You're not really going to cover yourself effectively, and it's much easier to just rely on the speed and mobility to stay alive. B tier. The Mk.E. This tiny Japanese tank is very fast, and the low profile makes it ideal for sneaking around and flanking your enemies. It's got a decent firepower, but the armor is what you would expect from a tank like this. B tier. Okay, moving on to the Italian tree, and for the Italian tanks, speed and flanking are the key, since the armor is practically non-existent. The M1139. This Italian tank feels a lot like a German tank destroyer. The gun's mounted on the hull, so it's pretty limited and the tank's mobility is pretty mediocre. Weak armor doesn't help either, making it an easy target for everyone. C tier. The Csaba. This Hungarian armored car is very fast, and its great agility lets you flank and take out your targets effectively. On top of that, it has excellent reverse speed thanks to its reverse gearbox, so if things go bad, you can easily retreat. The 20mm cannon has a slower fire rate compared to other tanks on this list, but the penetration isn't bad and the APHE shell has a solid post-pen damage. A tier. The Otto 41. This Italian armored car is very similar to the Hungarian Csaba, but it has a faster fire rate and excellent penetration, allowing it to easily shred most targets. It's also very fast and agile, making it perfect for flanking and taking out enemies before they even notice you. S tier. The L640. This tank is basically a tracked version of the Otto 41, equipped with the same 20mm autocannon on a heavily modified L3 chassis. The armor is decent, but the two-man crew really hurts its survivability. The mobility is also not bad, so flanking is the best way to make the most out of it. C tier. The Toldi 2A. This Hungarian tank is pretty solid with a decent armor and great mobility. It fires an APHE shell that can penetrate most tanks at 1.0, so you can brawl and even flank with it effectively. A tier. The L3. I already ranked this cutie in the Tank Destroyers video. Check out the Tank Destroyers video. Time for some French light tanks. They suck. The AMC-34, this light tank is pretty mediocre. It has a weak cannon, weak armor, and a two-man crew, so you can rarely survive a hit. The only really good thing about this tank is its mobility, which you can use to flank, but aside from that, it's not good. D tier. The AMC-35 ACG-1. This light tank has a good mobility, and its cannon can penetrate most tanks at 1.0, but the AP rounds lack HE, so the post-pen damage isn't great. It also has a fast reload, and with the weak armor, you'll need to flank to make the most out of its mobility. B tier. The FCM-36. This French tank is pretty similar to the MC-34, but it has a better armor and can fire APCR. APCR is only useful sometimes for the X penetration, but here is terrible. The penetration is poor and the post-pen damage is even worse. Moreover, another downside of this tank is its mobility. It's very slow, so flanking with it is pretty much useless. F tier. The Hotchkiss-35. The H-35 is pretty similar to the FCM-36. Both have weak firepower, mediocre mobility, and the H-35's armor is a bit thinner, but overall they are pretty similar, so F tier as well. The Hotchkiss-39. The H-39 is the upgrade the H-35 needed. It has the better armor, improved mobility, and a stronger cannon. It can fire an AP round with decent penetration, and the armor is pretty solid for 1.0. However, the two-man crew means a single hit can still send you back to the hangar. C tier. The R.T.R. SA-38. This light tank is pretty similar to the H-39 with the same cannon and the slightly better armor. It's very slow though, so you'll mostly have to rely on your armor, but the two-man crew really limits your survivability. D tier. The AMD-35. This French armored car is my favorite in the French 1.0 lineup. It's fast and agile, and the cannon has great penetration with a quick reload, making flanking with it really fun. It doesn't have much armor, but it holds up surprisingly well, and the four-man crew makes it even tougher to take out. A tier. The AMD-35 SA-35. This is basically an upgraded version of the AMD-35 with a bigger cannon that has less penetration but better post-pen damage. Other than that, it's the same, so A tier as well. Alright guys, here's the final tier list. I'm working on a medium tank tier list for next week's video, so like and subscribe.